national anthem. Maybe we can all be standing. Thank you. You might be seated. So once again, welcome all of you. What I'll do at this juncture is to ask Hassan to pass around the mic so that we do the introductions. We can start from the table here. So we have participants from different organizations, and they'll introduce themselves. No making of statement, just an introduction, your designation, and maybe the organization you come from. Please.
Good morning. My name is Hassan, Executive Director, Amnesty International Kenya.
Hamjambo, keep quiet, Banner Law Society of Kenya Council.
I am Abdullah, Abdi, Chairman, National Muslim Leaders Forum, WF.
Good morning, Master Andua, CEO of Law Society of Kenya.
Good morning, Eric Rory, Chairman, Kenya Branch.
Good morning, Faith Odhiambo, Council Member of the Law Society of Kenya.
Good morning, my name is Abdullah. I'm a Director of Applications to Western Express.
On that side.
Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Abondo Amawa, an advocate, and I work with Kituo cha Sheria.
Okay, and at this juncture, I'd like to call to the podium Mercy Wambua, who's the CEO of the Law Society of Kenya. She's just going to highlight to us, the purpose of this meeting, set for us the objectives, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the program.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. The chairman of NAMLEF, all the other protocols observed. Allow me to recognize the council members of the Law Society of Kenya who are present, Mr. Bernard Kipkoech, Madam Faith Moni Odhiambo, council member, and the chair of the Nairobi branch, Mr. Eric Theuri. Also to recognize with us the senior members of the Law Society of Kenya, advocates, and colleagues who are present today, including the Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya, Mr. Austin Irungu. I wish to welcome all of you today to this stakeholders engagement and media advocacy symposium on the disappearance and abduction of Professor Wilson Hassan Nandwa, advocate, and his client, Mr. Elgiva Bwire. This event is part of the Law Society of Kenya's activities for the Purple Ribbon Campaign Week, which was called for by the Council of the Law Society of Kenya in collaboration with the branch chairs. The Law Society of Kenya has 8 branches distributed across the country. Last week, and immediately after the mysterious disappearance of Professor Wilson Hassan Nandwa, and his client, Elgiva Bwire, the council and the branch chairs came together and thought to hold this stakeholders' engagement under the Purple Ribbon Campaign Week to agitate for the safe production of counsel, that is our advocate, together with his client, and also to end the enforced disappearances that we have been witnessing in this country. We thank God that today and this morning we have received the news that William Hassan Andua, professor and advocate of the High Court of Kenya, as well as an officer of the court, today has been found in Mwingi. I would like to confirm that one of our members of the Law Society of Kenya, immediately after we received the news, we dispatched him, one who practices in Mwingi and has this morning met Professor Andua and confirms that he is safe with his family members in Mwingi. This notwithstanding, as a Law Society of Kenya, we do condemn in the strongest terms possible the abduction, mysterious disappearances, not only of our members, but also of Kenyans. Together, we appreciate the stakeholders who have come here today to have these deliberations on how the country should move forward in ensuring that we end enforced disappearances. With those few remarks, I wish to welcome all of you to this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mercy Wambua, the CEO of the Law Society of Kenya. I'd like to invite to the podium Mr. Theuri, who is the chairman of the LSK Nairobi branch, to give us a status report. Of course, the latest has already been highlighted by the CEO, but there's a habeas corpus application in court, so he's going to highlight on that.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As you've been informed, my name is Eric Theuri. I'm the chairman of LSK Nairobi branch, and we wish to just give you a status update on the habeas corpus application that was filed in court on the 2nd of November and argued before Judge Murima on the 3rd of November. The habeas corpus application was filed to compel the police to produce the body of the two applicants who were before the court. The Law Society is the first applicant. Professor Andua and his client, Bwire, were the second and third applicants. The court granted those orders for a writ of habeas corpus for Professor Andua to be produced before a court of law within 24 hours. And another order was directed at Safaricom to provide us with the call records and the BTS transmission logs, which we hope, once supplied, will enable us to trace his movements from the point at which he was abducted and hopefully up to the point where they either released him or at any other given point that the data would be available. We, of course, are delighted in a way that pursuant to the issuance of those orders, he has not been produced in court, but he has been let free somewhere in Mwingi. Of course, we understand that he is frail and shaken, but we are hoping that we are going to have an opportunity to have a discussion with him so that we can be able to determine the next way forward. But that does not end the matter, because his client is still missing. And what we see is a pattern, and a very worrying pattern that tells each and every one and as Kenyans, we must come together irrespective of our different persuasions to say that this culture of enforced disappearance must come to an end. Because if we don't do that, then all of us are not safe. I say so because we are a country governed by a constitution which guarantees each and every one of us certain rights. The constitution sets up structures to deal with those who commit offenses. Mr. Bwire had served his time under the law and under structures set up by the Constitution. But it appears there is an extra constitutional entity that can determine whether you should leave or not. If Mr. Bwire had served his time, why was he abducted? And we say this because there is a pattern. He was abducted, the people he was with were released, his advocate was abducted later on in the evening. Subsequent to our moving to court, he has been released. And so, on the face of it, there is strong, irrefutable, circumstantial evidence that Mr. Bwire is in the hands of the state or its agents. And so, as a law society, we will proceed with the matter that we have filed in court. It is coming up at 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m. today for further directions. We are hoping that Safaricom Limited will comply and supply us with the data which we will be able to analyze to just determine what happened, how Professor was abducted. We are also waiting to receive him. Hopefully, he can be given the necessary psychological support that he needs, to not just him, but his family also. But we continue to make a clarion call on those fellows operating outside the law to release Mr. Bwire. He has served his time. If they have any cause to hold him, let them hold him legally. Just the same manner, he was presented in court, convicted, and has served time. Because those are the structures that are known in law and that all of us are safe. Any other extrajudicial mechanisms are a threat to each and every one of us. And I want to repeat that. They are a threat to each and every one of us. You should feel very, very scared of your government. It can decide that you will disappear and no one will know where you're being held. And we want to make a call to Professor to be courageous, to come out and tell us what happened to him. We understand that he is extremely frail and weak at this time, but we need to know so that we can then confront this monster in the court of law, because we have no other recourse than to stand firm, to be courageous, and to confront this monster. So as I end my remarks, it's a call to all of you. You have to be courageous. We have to have a unity of purpose so that we can defeat this monster, because if we don't, we are not safe. Thank you.
And thank you, and Bwana Eric Teuri, our chairman, LSK Nairobi branch. And we have a small alteration to the program. And as you've been told, we're supposed to have an account from the family of Professor Andua. But then because of the release, they had to go, not the release rather, the dumping actually, because he was just dumped in Wingi. The family has gone there. They're giving him the necessary supports and they're trying to comfort him. We couldn't get them, but we were privileged to have here with us one person who's gone through the same thing. He was abducted, he was enforcedly disappeared. This happened, I think, 2 months back, if my memory serves me right. You all had the case of Professor Sheikh Abdullah. He's here with us. He's been courageous, as our chairman just said, to come out and not be silenced about this. He's also going to give his remarks. Professor.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Abdullah Sheikh Abdi. I'm really so happy to hear the release of the Professor Hassan Andua. I know, how painful it is when somebody has gone such kind of things. I'm very thankful to Jamii Mosque Committee, human rights organizations, Law Society of Kenya, and also the Kenyan public. If I summarize in one word, I can say, I can't thank you enough. In addition to that, Kenya is governed by law. Kenya is governed by constitution. No one above the law. If anyone commit a crime against, then the state has a right to take you to the court. We have a qualified judge. We have a qualified lawyers. If anyone commit a crime, then he has to face the law. We have one of the best constitutions in Africa. If you look at the chapter 6 of our constitution, it talks about human rights issues. So what we are demanding for is only we have to implement our constitution. That's more than enough. Whether you are a state actor, whether you are a normal person, individual, no one above the law. If you commit any crime, take it to court. Take him to court. We must call the state actors, the accountability of the disappearances. So let's make our country habitable. Let us safeguard the safety and security of our nation. Let us protect our citizens. Together we can succeed. We must advise the policymakers what to do. If we don't do that, then history will judge you harshly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor. And I'd like to call a representative from Kituo cha Sheria also, because they are our partners in this, just to make also their remarks.
Good afternoon once again to all my seniors here and all protocols observed. As indicated, my name is Valerie Abondo Angawa from Kituo cha Sheria. I stand here today as an advocate and I stand here as a fellow Kenyan. These are my personal sentiments concerning what has befelled my learned senior. He is a fellow advocate and is a victim of what has happened today and why we are here today. He, and among others, are the reasons as to why we adorn this purple ribbon. It is not just cosmetics. They are the reasons why we are here today, adorning this purple ribbon. We live in a country where justice, as indicated in our national anthem, is our shield and defender. On behalf of Kituo cha Sheria, we abhor in the strongest of terms any action by the state or non-state purporting to curtail justice or infringe on the rights and freedoms of any Kenyan. Enforced disappearances, as have been indicated, have become a worrying trend. No one should be victimized, threatened, or to be made afraid in any way or in any manner for giving their statements or opinions in this country. My learned colleague is a friend, is a father, and is a senior member of the Law Society. Once again, on behalf of Kituo cha Sheria and on my own behalf as well, we stand against any action of enforced disappearances and continue to advocate for access to justice to be realized for all as citizens of this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. And I'd like to call on stage Huto Dirungu, who is the Executive Director at Amnesty International Kenya, also to make his remarks.
Thank you very much, Advocate Hussein, Chairperson of NAMLEF, Professor Abdi Wahab, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your courage this morning, but also Poleni, what you went through, nobody should go through. And I'm glad that as people are released, I hope that they will come and speak out about what has happened. I'm going to invite, first of all, introduce and then invite Steve Musau to read our amnesty statement. Steve Musau is just joined us, and for the members of the press, please make the switch. He is now the campaign manager for Amnesty International Kenya. Many of you know him from his previous position. Steve, karibu.
Thank you very much, Director. For me is to join my fellow colleagues. We have been this journey to seek. Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Stephen Musau. My previous employer has been Independent Policing Oversight Authority IPOA. I've just joined Amnesty. And I'm quite privileged to come and speak on this issue. Allow me first to appreciate the developments which have happened and what we have had, the release of Andua, Professor Andua is much welcome, though the issues still remain. We are deeply concerned in the trend which is happening across the country. When I joined Amnesty, I just asked very quickly about the numbers. What do the numbers speak about in terms of enforced disappearances? And since 2007, we are having cases of 227 people who have disappeared. From that data again, we are having 834 people who have been killed. And of that number, we are having 28 cases which are before court. Now, that number might be higher. That's the number from the missing voices data. You know, Amnesty is running that website where you can be able to access the number of people who are disappearing. That's a major concern. It's a major concern because we are talking about the due process which is not being followed in our country. And all of us are talking about rule of law, which governs our country. The concern which we have is who is doing this and for what purpose. Because the moment we have a rogue police within our country, it becomes a major concern. And why the police? It's because they are given powers by the law again to protect the lives and the properties of Kenyans. Now, if they're not doing it, then the question becomes, who is doing it? Because they seem not to be protecting the lives and the properties of Kenyans. The concern, again, that we have, and this is from my previous concern, it is the line of command within the service. And I have to say this because it becomes a matter of concern. The lines of command within the service has to be reinforced. We have some units who do not report to their commanders as required. And that's a huge issue of attention to all of us, because any arrest which is happening has to be within a jurisdiction. There is no arrest to be happening within a jurisdiction of another police officer. So whoever is arrested, wherever they are arrested, the immediate part to report to is within the police station within that jurisdiction. To be taken to any other jurisdiction, that line of command has to be informed. And this is where the dilemma starts. Because the moment people get be arrested and there's no reporting to the nearest police station, then the next thing is about disappearance. And that's not the concern that we are having. And we are emphasizing that the lines of command and the communication within the service must be held to account, because that is where the gaps are starting to happen. The last point which I want to emphasize, and this again informed by the work that we have been tracking about these killings, is Kenya up to now has not ratified the International Convention in the protection of all persons from enforced disappearances. I think that's a serious campaign that we have to take it up. Media houses, Kenyans, lawyers, that's a major entry point. Kenya has now it's only a signatory, but has not ratified that convention. For us to be able to push these matters to the international community, to the special rapporteurs who are concerned, Kenya has to ratify that convention, because through that, then we have become to be held as a state on where things are going wrong. And we are willing to join hands with LSK, we are willing to join hands with our actors to ensure that this becomes one of the serious areas of engagement so that we can reduce the cases of enforced disappearances. We want to also thank you for convening this and appreciate very much the Law Society fraternity. Let's join hands in this work so that we can be able to push our country forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to add maybe two things. The first is that our thoughts today are also with the family of Tamur Hussein, the young man who also has not been found yet. I personally will wear this ribbon for the entire week. I hope some of the activities will continue, because there are many people who are still missing, including Professor Nandua's client, Eldwiga Bwire, as we have heard. And lastly, I think, can we not demand that there be a ministerial statement on this issue? And perhaps maybe some of us who are here can make sure that that happens very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alvin. And just to let it be known that we have an official rapporteur for this particular event that we have. So later on, we're going to generate all these recommendations in the form of resolutions and action plan. And I'd like to recognize the presence of Al-Hajj Hassan Olenado, who is the chairman of the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims. He's here. I'll call him shortly, but now I'd like to call Brian Olang from the Kenya Human Rights Commission also to make remarks on behalf of the Commission.
Good afternoon. I think it's morning. Good morning. My name is Brian Olang. I work with the Kenya Human Rights Commission. and I'm here to represent the Commission and its Executive Director, Mr. Davis Malombe, who sends his regards. He could not make it today. Thank you. So, as the Kenya Human Rights Commission, we are concerned with the continuous enforced disappearances, not only of lawyers, but of our brothers from the Muslim faith, our brothers from, let me say, the slums mostly. I think we need to make a stand and make it clear that there is a rule of law, which should be followed always. And then secondly, when it comes to advocates, I think it's very clear that advocates should not be identified with their clients, and something that is well known to people. But if you sign like the case of Mr. Hassan, where he disappeared after his client was released, I mean, these are not cases that we should be having in the 21st century. And every Kenyan should be concerned where an individual just disappears in broad daylight and nothing is done about it. We go to court, habeas corpus orders are issued, we wait for days, sometimes months, people end up being found dead. And as the Kenya Human Rights Commission, we stand by these families, and we shall continue to stand by these families. And we call upon the investigative agencies to hold individual officers accountable where they're found culpable of such atrocities. And then again, we also stand together with the family of those of Mr. Hassan and his client. And we are committed to supporting this engagement to ensure that justice is they finally get justice. Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammadun wa ali wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, my apologies for actually coming late a little bit because of other commitments which are actually related to this particular one which we have this morning. I think it is saddening to all of us as the Kenyan people that we have been struggling in this country to put in place measures that will protect each and every citizen, life and property in the name of the Constitution. And it's actually worrying now that we are having the state machinery that has a contract to protect citizens, protect the lives and properties of citizens, is now turning against its very subjects which they are supposed to protect. For quite a long time, it have always been, we have associated these abductions with the Muslim faithful. And we have associated these abductions with what I can describe as the so-called periphery communities, where we have always thought for you to be abducted, maybe you have to be an Afro-Arab, Swahili, maybe you have to be a Somali, maybe. But now we have seen what is happening in this country. It's actually all those things that we have always had, perceptions behind our minds, have completely changed. That's all completely changed. It is now like an old folklore in my community, where we say when elders want to curse you and they don't want really any harm to get you, they'll actually tell you, may the hyena that got in the cow in the river get you. So they can just harm you, but they may not kill you. Meaning, if you are a weak person, a weak cow can always be gotten by the hyena somewhere in the rivers. Brothers, and sisters, we are aware that for the last 10 days, we gotten the sad news of the abduction or disappearance of Professor Hassan Andua. It came about after a similar incident that happened almost a month and a half ago, where you also have a similarly other scholar of the Muslim community, Professor Abdullah, was also subjected to the same suffering. Sadly, there are so many other happenings happening in the different parts of the country. But these particular ones, why they actually stand out within our community, because accusation on issues to do with extremism and terrorism is always targeted against young people. But when we see prominent scholars, elderly individuals in the streets of Nairobi being abducted, then it raises a lot of questions and fear to every individual Kenyan in this country. We are also aware that for the last number of months, we have had a senior security analyst, Bijiwe, who have not been accounted up to today, and many other people who have actually not been privileged to have been mentioned anywhere. But we have hundreds of young people and other equally elderly people who are missing from their places from their homes actually. And it is something that's really saddening. We want to call this country that we have a constitution. None of us at the leadership level, at the community level, in all levels in this country will want to see a Kenya faced with threats of terrorism. We all want a peaceful country. We want a prosperous country. This is our country. It's a country of our children and a country of our great-grandchildren in years to come. We want this country to remain stable. We want this country to be secure. We want this country to prosper. But we cannot get progress if this is how we handle issues to do with security. Today, we are raising questions about the role of the security in the abductions. But tomorrow, we may not know who else can start the same business of abductions. We don't know who will do it tomorrow. Because what happens in this country, other elements also can learn the same trick. We are going to politics 2022. Who knows whether the same strategy of abduction will be applied in the political arena? Who knows? How sure are we that those who are going to be abducted are just maybe now, because we have now added in the same in the group of most at risk, our scholars, who says that the politicians, the business people, and other groups are not going to apply the same tactic to eliminate their competitors in business. So it is not something that light that we can actually take it for granted and think that it's something that has happened to those who have unfortunately been faced with this. Brothers, the time has come that as a country, we must demand answers from those who have been given a responsibility to keep this country secure. The time has come that we must call by names those we suspect to be involved. The time has come that we must mention institutions that we suspect are involved in this kind of crime. And also, the time has come that the human rights defenders of this country must also think of exploring other avenues, including international ones. We have the African Court of Justice, we have ICC, and any other available legal regimes that govern the entire world, and also raising these issues to the level of the United Nations. We cannot just keep quiet and think things are okay, and something has happened wrongly there and that corner, and everything is okay. I think let us rise up, and I'm really excited this morning to see all of us in this magnificent mosque joined hand in hand on what is happening and what had happened to all of us. Let this be the spirit that will guide our engagements going forward. Let us always stand together. Let us have common strategies that we can be able to liberate ourselves and to ensure that this country is secured and the rule of law is what applied to all of us, wherever who is suspected to be involved in crime or in any other thing should actually be subjected to the rule of law. There should not be extrajudicial processes in anything, because otherwise there will be no meaning to the rule of law. Thank you, and may God bless all of you.
Thank you, Al-Haj Olenado. And I'll call Senior Counsel, Honorable Abdikadir, also to make his remarks.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I was seeing Irungu checking whether Masi here knows the protocols in the mosque. So it's good to know. Good morning, and thank you very much to members of the Law Society, members of different human rights organizations, the Jamia Mosque Committee, NAMLEF, and all the organizations that have come out strongly in favor of human rights, the rule of law, and everything good about this country. I think it's very unfortunate if there are those who believe that they can uphold the law through crimes, kidnapping, murder, forced disappearances. That is terrorism. And anybody who in their mind thinks that you can terrorize people in your perceived fight or fight against terrorism is really mistaken. It's really very unfortunate that there are those in the security apparatus who have essentially decided that they are above the law, that the judiciary and the courts are a weak link, and therefore we're going to set it aside. They are the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, and they will decide on their own, without recourse to anybody, how, who, and when they will fashion out whatever punishment they think is appropriate, whether it's kidnapping you and releasing you in the middle of the night in Mwingi, or maybe even killing you. Now, the global war on terror has been a disaster. It has killed very many people. It has laid very many countries waste. But the global war on terror is being clearly shown, whether it is in Afghanistan or in the Supreme Court of the United States, where there's a case coming up today, that finally people are catching up and there is nowhere to hide for those who believe that you can hide behind some of these concepts and cause death and mayhem to people. Now, as everybody has said, if you believe or have reason to believe that anybody has caused or is accused of anything, there's a process. There's a process. And if you believe that process is no longer for you, then there is no difference between you and whoever you think you are fighting in terms of the fight against terrorism. You see, national security, the term that is beginning with that is national. And nations are held together by things like constitutions and the rule of law and national values. And when you decide to go outside those, you are causing that nation to crumble yourself. And there's no force that can stop the people. Look at Ethiopia or Sudan, or because those in the security sector have this hubris that they believe they can answer everything through use of force. I mean, if you are kidnapping people, it will reach a point where you will be stopped on the streets. What are you going to do? Shoot people? You just have to come to your senses. Where we are heading, people will be held individually responsible. There was a case decided last year in the US Supreme Court where FBI agents were to be held personally responsible. Personally responsible, not the government, because they asked an individual to become an informer, otherwise they were going to put him on the no-fly list. And when he refused, they actually did put him on the no-fly list. So he couldn't fly. And he had to be sacked from his job because his job included flying. And he couldn't fly to Pakistan, where he came from, to go visit his family members. And he went to court and sought that these individuals who told him, you'll either be put on the no-fly list or you become an informant, they be the ones paying for his damages, not the state. And the Supreme Court of the United States agreed with him. So those officers in the security sector who believe that they will not be held personally responsible, whether they are the bosses or the individual officers, take note. Take note, because 10 years, that case took 10 years. 10 years from now, Professor Abdullah, the lawyer, and all these people will not have lost their memories. And you are not doing this in our name. It is not for national security. No, you're not doing it in our name. It's important that we understand we either live within the system or we have anarchy. That's the choice. That is the choice. And it's not for junior officers or even senior officers in the military or in the police or in the national security sector to determine who is guilty, who is not, whether a lawyer should represent somebody or not. It is for courts of law. That is what we have agreed to as a country. That's what we have agreed to. And if you are in law enforcement, law comes before enforcement. If you are in national security, national comes before security. Don't assume, however many people you abduct, that the law will not. Ask those who are torturing people in Nyayo House. Finally, the law caught up with them. Otherwise, you will not have a country. And we have in this region enough examples to show that force, military force, whether in Somalia or in Ethiopia or in Sudan or in any of these other places, finally leads to a state essentially crumbling. And I don't think that is the interest of the people of Kenya. I want to thank the human rights defenders, the Law Society of Kenya. This is the best example of the role of the Law Society or of the human rights defenders. And we should take comfort that Professor is safe and sound, but alarm bells should be ringing in the heads of every sane, law-abiding Kenyan, that tomorrow it could be you or me picked from a street, and you might not come back. Now is the time to stand up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. I'll call on stage Advocate Bernard Kipkoech Ngetich to make his remarks on behalf of the Council of the Law Society.
Salam alaikum. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to, at the very outset, thank all of us who are participating by expressing ourselves, those who did not get a chance to express ourselves, and the media. When Professor and Brother Bwire were abducted on the 28th of October 2021, all of us have played a very significant role, and I want to say thank you very much. The media has been highlighting this. We say thank you. Your colleagues, your brothers and sisters in the fights against the evil that the society, that is the Republic of Kenya, continues to face. I say again, thank you. Allow me, Chair, to mention a few lawyers who were involved in filing the petition, which eventually saw the grant of the habeas corpus last week by Justice Anthony Murima. I would request the lawyers, if they are present here, to stand. Eric Theuri had already spoken, and chair of the branch. Are we here? Where are those lawyers? If they are not here, allow me to mention their names very quickly, because it was quite some task, and as a council member of the Law Society, it would not be good for me if I didn't mention them. Mercy Wambua was coordinating. We had Eric Theuri prosecuting on behalf of the Law Society and the two petitioners, Ndugu Bwire and Professor Andua. David Ocheng Ayuo, whom we've been sending, who's been running errands, filing papers, Faith Odhiambo, Council Member of the Law Society, who is here, Hussein Nasir, Samuel Moshi has been very fundamental in advices, Stephen Ongaro, Habu Mahamud, and Ndegwa Njiru. Thank you very much to that team of the Law Society that has been involved fundamentally in filing that petition. I want to agree with all the speakers who have spoken, because what we are talking about is about humanity. I agree with you entirely. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to only say 3 things, because what has been spoken was the right thing to be spoken, and I think equally very important. Ningependa kusema namna hii: haki ya kuwakilishwa na wakili ni haki ya kikatiba. Kipengele cha 49 ya Kenya inasema mtu ambaye anashukiwa hako na haki kuzungumza na wakili wake, kutafutiwa wakili na yule mtu ambaye anaweza kumsaidia. Kwa hivyo ni kinyume na katiba cha Kenya kwa serikali ya Kenya, kwa wale askari ambao wanahusika kushika wakili kama Profesa Andua kwa sababu amemtetea na amemwakilisha Bwana Bwire, na sisi kama shirika la mawakili hatutakubali kamwe. Hiyo ni haki ya binadamu, hiyo ni haki ya Wakenya, hiyo ni haki ya kila mtu. Tutapigania mpaka mwisho, na vile nimesema, hatutaruhusu serikali ya Kenya, hatutaruhusu Anti-Terrorism Police Unit na mtu yeyote ile kuchukua haki hii. Hata Rais Uhuru Kenyatta na naibu wake wanajua vizuri, wamewakilishwa kule ICC na timu kubwa ya mawakili. Number 2, yule mtu ambaye anashukiwa kuhusika na uhalifu hako na haki kulingana na kipengele cha 49 vile vile na kipengele cha 50 ya katiba ya Kenya kupelekwa mahakamani, akatae mashtaka, hawakilishwe na mawakili. Kama amepatikana na hatia afungwe, kama hajapatikana na hatia aachiliwe. Hako na haki ya kukata rufaa mpaka mahakama ya juu zaidi, na tutakubali mtindo ambao tunaona sasa ndani ya serikali ya Kenya, mtindo ambao tunaona sasa ukiendelezwa na idara ya usalama. Wale watu ambao wanashukiwa kwa sababu ya ugaidi, wale watu ambao wanashukiwa kwa sababu ya ujambazi, wanapigwa risasi, mara mingi wananyongwa. Hii hatutakubali na ni kinyume cha sheria ya Kenya. Na sisi kama shirika la mawakili, vile wale mawakili na wazungumzaji wamesema, hatutakubali, tutapigana vita, tudumishe katiba ya Kenya na sheria ya jamii ya kimataifa. Lazima ufikishwe mahakamani, kesi yako ifanywe, ukipatikana na hatia ufungwe, kama hamna hatia uachiliwe. Ukikata rufaa ni haki yako ya katiba ya Kenya. Na nambari ya 3 na ya mwisho, na hii sasa hatutaomba, tunamwambia Rais Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta ajue kwamba wale wa Kenya ambao wako hapa ni wa Kenya, ni binadamu, wanalipa ushuru. Hatutaruhusu idara ya usalama kuendelea vile inaendelea. Tungependa tukue na idara ya usalama ambayo inafuata katiba. Miguna anatakikana kuwa Kenya, lakini vile tunavyozungumza yuko kule nje kwa sababu wizara ya idara ya usalama haitaki Bwana Miguna arudishwe humu nchini. Kuna Wakenya wengi ambao wamepotea. Tuko na wakili Njau Kayai ambaye vile sasa amepotea, hajapatikana, na inaonekana vizuri alitekwa nyara humu Nairobi. Alitekwa nyara, kuna CCTV cameras za Nairobi Metropolitan. Kwa nini Njau Kayai hajatolewa? Kazi ya idara ya usalama ni kufanya nini? Hatutaki idara ya usalama ambayo inafanya siasa. Tunataka idara ya usalama ambayo inalinda katiba ya Kenya na inazingatia haki za binadamu kutoka kipengele cha 22 mpaka mwisho katika katiba ya Kenya. Ndugu zangu, lazima nitasema kwamba askari wetu kule chini si wabaya. Ubaya ni wala ambao wanaongoza idara hii ya usalama, na tungependa kumwambia Rais Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta wakati anapanga kuondoka ofisini, aangalie na abadilishe uongozi wa idara ya usalama. Tukue na wale watu ambao wanaheshimu haki za binadamu, wale watu ambao wanaheshimu tofauti za kisiasa, tofauti za dini, tofauti za uchumi katika taifa hili letu la Kenya ili tuweze kusonga mbele. Na mimi nasema sisi kama mawakili, kama hatutaona hayo mabadiliko ndani ya siku 30, itabidi tuende kotini tushtaki rais pamoja na mwanasheria mkuu, mahakama yaamrishe kwamba hao viongozi wa juu, Matiang'i na ndugu zake katika idara ya usalama, hawana hulka ya kutosha, hawana nidhamu ya kutosha kuongoza idara muhimu kama idara ya usalama. Ndiposa vile tunavyozungumza, Profesa Andua ambaye aliwakilisha mteja, alifanya kazi ya kikatiba, ametekwa nyara ndani ya siku 10, ametezwa vile tunavyoelezwa, amechoka sana, anasikia akiwa mgonjwa, hataki hata kuja hapa kwa sababu ya kazi ya idara ya usalama ya Kenya ambayo inalipwa mshahara, inalipwa bajeti, inapewa pesa na ushuru wetu. Hiyo hatutakubali. Na hii Kenya si ya mtu mmoja, hii Kenya ni yetu sisi sote, na chairman lazima tushikane pamoja kama SUPKEM, kama Waislamu, kama Wakristo, kama Wahindu, sisi sote pamoja na hata vyombo vya habari tuhakikishe kwamba hii katiba nzuri tulio nayo inatekelezwa vilivyo. Sitaki kusema mengi, nataka kurudia kwamba lazima tulinde hii katiba na ni haki yetu sisi sote, na kama shirika la mawakili hatutarudi nyuma. Tunaomba pia vile mmekuwa mkifanya, Amnesty International, Kenya Human Rights Commission, mawakili hawarudi nyuma. Ungana na sisi, vyombo vya habari, tusimame pamoja, tutembee pamoja, tusimame kidete, na tunajua bila shaka siku za hapo usoni zitakuwa siku za baraka. Asanteni sana. Mwenyezi Mungu awabariki.
Teacher mwongea kama Abdullah. Tutamuita Abdullah. Very nice Swahili. Put it very nicely. None of us thought of speaking Swahili. I think it's very important, even in our functions, that, you know, the message goes down there. So at this juncture, I'd like to invite Sheikh Abdullah Abdi, who is the chairman of the National Muslim Leaders Forum, to make his remarks and also help us now generate the resolutions. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My brothers, my sisters, members, representatives of the Law Society of Kenya, representatives of various human rights organizations, the media, and all others present, Assalamu alaikum. Frankly speaking, I think I'm just so much moved by what has been said here today. Every speaker spoke what was in my heart and in my mind. I'm left with nothing to say except to declare that actually I support every word that has been said here today. This is the Kenya that we want to see in this country. It's a Kenya that is going to stand up for the constitution that we struggled for more than 20 years, that we are going to create a document that is going to be used to rule us. It's a document that is going to be a contract between us and the administration that's going to rule above us. And us coming out today here to defend one or two Kenyans whose rights have been violated, and this solidarity expresses that there is a bright future for this country. Brothers and sisters, suffices to say, it has already been said, this gathering here was prompted and triggered by the abduction of two Kenyan citizens, Professor Hassan Andua and Bwire. But this is not the beginning of these crimes that has been going on for more than the last 7 or 8 years. In excess of 300 people have disappeared. And I can tell you these 300 are the ones that are documented. The documented ones are the ones where they disappeared from Nairobi or Mombasa or these areas. I can tell you I come from Mandera. In 1 week, I went to visit my family there. In 1 week, 7 people were abducted. Only 1 was released, 6 have disappeared up to today. You cannot see the records anywhere. More importantly, what's even more serious than that, the people who are carrying out these tasks, they want us to fear. They have created an environment of fear that people should dissociate themselves for innocent Kenyans just because their names have been mentioned or they have been abducted. This fear is going to create us keeping silent. That is the intention. But contrary to their thoughts, today we can see Kenyans coming up, standing up for the rights of other Kenyans and fighting for the restoration of a constitution that has been violated by the system that is in power. We have been holding meetings as Muslim leaders, And what we are saying is that even if Hassan Andua is released, even if Bwire is released, this is not the end of the game. There are people who have disappeared, and you are witnesses to 18 bodies who have been collected from the Tana River at the bridge at Garissa. A lot of those are Kenyans. There is torture size on each one of them. Who did this, we don't know. But it's interesting to note that President Uhuru Kenyatta, who swore with the Bible in front of all Kenyans that's going to uphold the Constitution, that is going to be responsible for the security of the 50 million Kenyans, is absolutely silent when these things are happening. Is this an undeclared policy by this regime? What is this silence? The silence is telling. There is the Minister of Interior, and I think everybody must own up. Mr. Matiang'i and the ones who are ahead of him, they know this thing is happening. Kenyans are disappearing. Their silence tells a lot. We have got this Principal Secretary in the Interior, Minister of Interior, Kibicho, and the others, and the Inspector General of Police. Nobody is uttering a word. Are they culprits? Are they the culprits? If President Uhuru Kenyatta knows this thing and he keeps quiet, he is the first #1 culprit to this thing. If the people under his administration have failed him, his responsibility is to sack them, create a task force that is going to investigate this matter and take action against them. If he doesn't do that, we hold him responsible. As was mentioned earlier, history will speak. And when history speaks, a lot of people who think now they hold the instruments of power, they will be brought to book. They should know that the blood of innocent Kenyans is just not going to be forgotten. Let me end by telling you, as Muslims, we have said we'll continue with this struggle. And I'm sure from the declaration that has come from here, we are all together in this struggle. This week, we have organized, tomorrow we are calling all the Muslim political leaders to engage on how we are going to address this issue. On Wednesday, there was a demonstration that was to be done by the LSK. We are going to join hands, we'll be with you in that one. On Friday, in every mosque from the pulpit, there is going to be, that day's discussion will be on extrajudicial killing in Kenya, throughout the country. All the imams will be instructed, and that's what's going to take place. We are preparing for demonstrations on every Friday until this thing stops, throughout the country, and other activities that will jointly agree together and will move forward together. The time has come that Kenyans must stand up for their own security. As was mentioned earlier, the loss of one Kenyan life is too much. The loss of 400 or so Kenyan lives, which cannot be accounted for up to date, is actually a disaster, is a massacre that we cannot remain silent about. Brothers and sisters, I thank you all for turning up. I thank you for the stand that you have been taken. We are happy and we thank God for the release of our brother Hassan Andua. We pray that Bwire is safe. We don't know whether he's still alive or not. We pray he's come back alive, and we pray that we are going to join hands and continue with this struggle until Kenya goes back to sanity, until the criminals who are doing these things will come to their sense. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, Chairman Namlef. And at this point, I'd like to call Chairman Subkem and maybe Houghton and Marcy to lead the discussions on the resolutions and the action plan. I don't know how we're going to do it because the press guys said we shouldn't move this. So maybe will you take turns, or so that we have a press statement? There's a draft press statement, we can endorse it, and then now we read it for the media. Maybe Houghton, you can. We just read the message. Yeah. Yeah, we have a draft, but in the meantime, we need to go through the draft together. Yeah, so that we endorse it.
So is it going to take some questions?
Oh yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think that is the most critical part also. And members of the press, thank you very much for your patience. What we'll do, we'll open up the floor. I think so that whatever issues that came up in the program, if you have like specific people you need to address and you need their responses from, then this is the right time to take it. So So you'll just introduce yourself, the media station you're from, and then maybe you can throw the question. There's an extra mic, we'll circulate it. So just by show of hands, if there's anything. Yeah, there's a question down there.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andua from National Media, and my question is the guy who spoke on behalf of LSK. He said that LSK has given President Uhuru Kenyatta an ultimatum of 30 days to make an overhaul on the top leadership of government security agencies. So who are the specific leaders who they want to be changed? Would he mention the independence or the security agencies in particular?
Okay, Ngetich, you want to respond to that?
Thank you very much. We are very clear in our minds that the head of policy, Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government is Dr. Fred Matiang'i. He has failed, he needs to go. Principal Secretary Karanja Kibisho is the person who executes, he leads the implementation, he needs to go like yesterday. The IG has not been able to deliver. He needs to go. Those are the people that we are talking about. Thank you. I must be very clear. Failure to which we have said within, after 30 days from today, this is the 8th of November 2021. We are going to file a suit under Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya and on the relevant provisions on national security. National security is too important for the Republic of Kenya to be messed up with by people who are not sure about what they are doing.
Any other question? Oh, yeah. Please introduce yourself and then the person you're addressing the question to.
Good afternoon.